Okay, hello, welcome to this video. It's time once again to unfortunately have to talk about some news that really needs to be talked about that's not being talked about by, South Shore 12, of course, because if it doesn't happen on the South Shore, well, they're not going to be too interested. Might as well be in the middle of the woods. So, let's talk about Channel 12 and their failure to cover some pretty important stories, properly at least. All right, and I guess I'm going to start with the first one because this one happened closest to where I live. All right, so actually there are a couple here. But it says, man robbed and kicked and bit woman Garden City. All it got is 26 seconds from South Shore 12.
An
All they do
argument
is
turned
read over it.
violent
There's
in Garden
preppy
City. This
Erin
happened at the
Colton right
Avalon
there.
apartment complex
She
yesterday.
doesn't want to. She doesn't have to deal with living with this
Detectives say
crap.
24-year-old Devin Mertzel was arguing with a 20-year-old woman when he took her phone and laptop. He then allegedly
Garden
kicked her in the
City, East
stomach,
Garden
hit her in the
City,
face,
really.
and bit
The
her
Avalon
hand. Now, after
apartment
investigating, you
complex
see
on
there,
Stewart
officers
Avenue. So, and you can see they don't even tell
found
you.
an unloaded handgun as well. The woman's expected to be okay. This man, Mertzel, facing robbery
And he had a
and
gun
criminal
too. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So this is the kind of people we have in the middle of the island. You know, when you're in the middle of the island, it smells like weed all over the place. Kind of is a clue as to the kind of people you're going to have to deal with. So let's have this popped up. Go away. Let's get a more proper article here on this because obviously Channel 12 didn't really talk about it that much. But every once in a while, we're going to talk about these things because Channel 12 just failed to cover, the news that really affects, people in the middle of the island. They're, gearing to the snobs once again. So it says, man kicks, bites woman during a Long Island robbery. And a man was taken into custody after he robbed a Long Island woman of her MacBook, laptop, and iPhone, kicking and biting her in the process. This is a very violent individual here. All right, so the incident happened on September 26th in East Garden City. It was just before 4 p.m. when 24-year-old Devon Mertzel got into a verbal argument with a 20-year-old woman who remained unnamed at the Avalon Apartments complex located at 604 Mitchell Fieldway. So it kind of gives you an idea of the kind of people that are moving into the apartments. Now, we don't get the trendy people. We get the crap. All right. The altercation eventually turned physical, and Mertzel allegedly took the woman's iPhone and MacBook from her forcibly. Police then said Mertzel began to assault the woman. He kicked her in the stomach, bit her left hand, and hit her in the face with the back of his hand. When he was arrested, police also found and recovered an unloaded gun. In plain sight, he had a gun. At least it wasn't loaded. The woman, this is a big story. You'd think Channel 12 would cover it. But no. The woman suffered lacerations, pain, and bruising for which she was treated at the scene. It's unclear what Mertzel's relationship with the victim is. It might have been even a random attack, for all we know. Police did not provide information if Mertzel is a resident of East Garden. So he might not even be living there, or he might just be homeless. Mertzel was charged with robbery and criminal possession of a weapon. He pled not guilty as arraignment. And who knows if he's back out on the streets again? He could very well be back out on the streets again. So let's see. We got a bunch of stuff here that they didn't cover. A bunch of stuff here. Armed robbery. They didn't cover this either, Channel 12. They didn't even cover this at all. 4 named in an armed robbery at Ronkonkoma Business. 4 men are facing charges after a late-night armed robbery at a smoke shop in Ronkonkoma. It happened at 12:30 in the morning in Ronkonkoma. It's middle of the island at the Lucky 7 smoke shop on Roseville Avenue. According to Suffolk County Police, 5 men entered the store and one armed with a handgun restrained the clerk while the others stole merchandise and cash. All 5 then ran off toward Roseville Avenue. A short time later, a highway patrol officer spotted them getting into a Volkswagen Jetta and followed them. The car eventually parked in a driveway on Terry Road where several of the suspects took off running, and the driver is quickly arrested. Additional officers, including a K-9, were called and eventually located 3 more suspects, and these men are all from Wyandanch. Albert Diaz, age 22, Angel Arguada, age 19, Vasco Arnault, age 19, and an 18-year-old man. Gee, I wonder, I can only hypothetically, you can fill in the blank, I'm not going to say. You can fill in the blank. All 4 men were arrested and charged with first-degree robbery. They're scheduled to be arraigned at First District Court in Central Islip. All right, so you have that one. And then we have something else that happened, actually, which we don't have. I got to actually go to. I shared it in my community. Hold on a second. So, this is the other story that I have. This was on the Greater Mauritius because it wasn't even covered in News 12. They didn't cover this at all. This is a pretty big deal. Mastic's Frankenstein Bakery robbed at gunpoint. Now, Shirley, while it's on the South Shore, it's not an enclave. It's kind of a low-income area. And, it's treated basically like the middle of the island because, again, news that only the areas where the preppy white finance professional lives are where they're gonna get their news reported. The rest of us are just forgotten. So this was a bakery that was robbed at gunpoint right on Montauk Highway. And it happened broad daylight. Frankenstein Bakery, a family-owned Italian bakery in Mastic, fell victim to an armed robbery Tuesday afternoon. Again, SouthShore12 did not cover it. According to Suffolk County Police, a man entered the bakery located at 575 Montauk Highway at approximately 4:40 p.m. and placed an order for pastries. Moments later, he whipped out a silver revolver and demanded cash. When an employee refused to comply, the suspect fled on foot, absconding with the baked goods. As he left the scene, the individual discharged his weapon into the sidewalk, so shots were fired. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. The Suffolk County Police 7th Squad remains actively engaged in the investigation with no arrests made at the time. On Facebook, the owner of the Frankenstein Bakery announced their temporary closure, with plans to resume normal business hours the following day. We thank you for all your concerns. Everyone is safe. So very scary. And if you go here, you see Gerardo's Pizza and Pasta permanently closed and shows the business had enough of the crime. They're getting out. Now, Smoke Shack Barbecue opened second location, this one in Santa Mauritius. And when they did that, Santa Mauritius is a little bit of a preppy white little, area. Well, they closed the one down in Mastic Beach because, after all, Mastic Beach they had enough of the crime. They weren't doing enough business. That's what they said on the post. We're not doing enough business. Nobody's coming. Sound familiar? It's just like Mineola, right? Yeah, because, again, it's those white areas, white areas. You got a majority white area, like 80% white. A lot of finance professionals. If you're in one of those areas, things are going to be thriving. If you're not, then you're going to be suffering. That's the way it is when you're on Long Island. That's what's happening. All right, we're not done yet because there's more news out here that we have here for you that, again, hasn't really been covered properly here, and even Daily Voice hasn't really covered some of this. News 12, South Shore 12, once again, barely covered this one as well. Man beaten during Hicksville robbery. Yeah, they barely covered this. It's funny how the pause button is deciding not to work, or maybe it is. But it says a man. They only showed a map. All right, it did happen in the middle of the night, but 4 people came up. Imagine you're walking around 11:30 p.m. on Jerusalem Avenue, and 4 people come up to you. 4 people came up to a 43-year-old man and punched and kicked him, and then stole his jewelry before running off. So this is the kind of crime that you have. But again, they don't care because this wouldn't happen in preppy old Wantor. So we don't care really. We're safe in our enclaves. We don't really care. Is their attitude basically? We're safe in our enclaves. We don't care. Same thing for this one. Barely covered. Sex trafficking business. And they didn't say where they were arrested here. And nothing on the Daily Voice about this either, by the way. So nothing on the Daily Voice about that either. However, we do have one other thing to talk about here. I don't want to get into the habit of this, but hey, this is what we got to cover because, again, they're not coming up. Another one. Beer bandit nabs 15 cases of Corona beer from Deer Park again. Probably just another one of those suffering migrants that are coming, right? Suffering. Yeah, right. They're invaders is what they are. This happened in Mineola, actually not too far from where I live. A necklace swap. It was a scam. So taking advantage of, again, they didn't cover this at all. In a stunt seemingly straight out of Ocean's 8, authorities are searching for a Long Island thief who managed to steal a $1,000 necklace straight off a victim, swapping it with a fake. And yeah, it happened right here in Mineola, of course. This happened on Thursday, September 21st, and it happened 11:30 a.m., broad daylight. The victim, an 83-year-old woman, was walking north on Willis Avenue. And she was approached. Was this right in my neighborhood? It looks like it was right in my neighborhood. Gotta love it. These are the kind of people you have driving around walking around Mineola. All right, people who should be in jail, but they're out victimizing people because the government doesn't want to lock them up. And as long as the important people, the movers and shakers, the people who work on Wall Street, as long as they're safe, the rest of us can just go pound dirt. So it says, at approximately 11:30 a.m., the victim, an 83-year-old woman, was walking north on Willis Avenue as she was approached by a pair in a white SUV traveling south on the same road. The car pulled up to the victim, and the woman in the front passenger seat called out to her. She walked up to the car and had a conversation with the people in the car, though it was not revealed as to what was talked about. At some point during the conversation, the woman leaned over and gave the victim a hug. So probably telling them some kind of sob story or whatever, scamming this woman. So during the hug, the thief was able to stealthily remove the victim's necklace worth approximately $1,000 and replace it with a fake one. The duo then drove off, leaving the victim to later realize that she was now wearing a different necklace. Police described the car's driver as an adult white man. The front passenger was described as an adult white woman. No further description of the deceiving duo has been provided. So again, no coverage on this Channel 12. You might want to know what Channel 12 was talking about, because instead of talking about all this important stuff that I'm talking about, stuff that the average people on Long Island who don't live in enclaves have to deal with, what were they talking about? Well, what they were talking about, go to their thing here, the snobs, they're really upset. They're upset about the Atlantic Bridge toll increase. That's right, they raised tolls from $2 to $3 on the Atlantic Beach Bridge. And the snobs, well, they're very upset about it.
It's the only bridge going to the Long Beach.
You can see them right here.
Been around for charged a toll to get across.
So they're very upset that the toll went up.
In January of this year, that toll was increased from $2 to $3.
And of course, they give them 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
The largest trucks are paying up to $16. Bridge Authority headquarters, Nassau County Bridge Authority, the protest out.
Look at them. Look at how important they
are.
are.
The Nassau County
all
Bridge
white,
Authority
preppy,
headquarters in Lawrence,
little world there,
demanding the toll increases be reversed and an audit of the agency's finances. They were joined by Democrat Alexis Pace, who's running for a seat on the county legislature.
Kind of
These rate hikes unfairly burden our residents and businesses, potentially harm our local
What about the MTA fare hike? Why were you quiet on that?
And make it less affordable to live and work here.
It's not.
What about the fare hike that Long Island Railroad riders had to deal with? Well, why weren't you there? No, it's obvious who she represents. It's both parties. It's Democrat, Republican. They're all corrupt. They're all looking out for the snobs. They don't really care about it. It's all about these people in their little enclave world. They're upset about paying a $3 bridge toll, while people on the Long Island Railroad are paying a lot more. It's ridiculous. But no, none of those. There was no protest here about the fare hike, against the fare hike. And what was the other big story they were covering? Well, of course, Gilgo. What else is new? Because he's from Massapequa Park, and we all know the people in Massapequa Park are basically made of gold. They're like 100 times more important than everybody else, or at least they think that way. So that's why, of course, that they get that. So there you go. Yeah, I just had to make this little rant because I'm disgusted. And what's interesting is the other News 12s aren't like this. If you want to look at News 12 New Jersey, they're leading with crime. 1 minute and 41 seconds here. Person injured in stabbing. All right, near Union County Park. All right, they have crime. News 12 New Jersey is like completely different than News 12 Long Island. And Brooklyn also covering crime as well. So it's always geared to the snobs here on Long Island. It doesn't matter whether you're dealing with News 12 or the MTA or whatever. It's all geared to these people. I'm going to call them snobs because they're in their own little world, oblivious to the harsh reality the rest of us have to deal with. We're tired of it, And, if you want to have a good quality of life, well, sorry, you're going to have to leave Long Island because unless you're working on Wall Street and you're one of them, they're not going to let you into their little preppy little world. And you'll just have to suffer or shut up and go live in New Jersey. So, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching.